Hello viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth, and I am Pastor Forbes from the Gateway Abiding Word Ministries here in the Gambia. Well, finally we are at the very last episode of this very interesting series entitled Wholeness or Completeness. And we started literally 2 months ago, and we thought it was going to be a 5-part series. It stretched into 7, and then we had to stand down for 2 consecutive weeks because of Palm Sunday and Easter, where we brought messages that I think were challenging about the resurrected life and the reality of resurrection and having a second chance in life and coming to Jesus, who can give significance, meaning, and life and total emancipation like he did to that donkey on Palm Sunday. And then we continued in episode 8 and 9, and last week we said we're definitely going to finish today, and I really want to thank you for your patience and for journeying along. This, I believe, is one of many key and crucial thoughts that when we reflect upon, it will put us and place us in good footing on how we must relate with people and how we must actualize ourselves in a world full of 8.5 billion people without being shy, bending our head down, running away from reality, because we are relating to people from the position and the placing of wholeness. We defined wholeness as original wholeness as per you or myself, not being ever hurt, damaged, impaired in any way. And we also described it as a restored wholeness, whereby there was a wound, an injury, and it was healed. So there was a restoration to wholeness. There was a problem somewhere in life. There was a financial problem, emotional problem, academic problem, job problem, relational problem, problem of self-esteem and confidence and self-value. And you interfaced with help, with counsel, with advice, with mentoring, and you bounce back to yourself. And we are saying that until that happens, it's dangerous to engage into any kind of relationship and friendship, because you'll be engaging from a point of maybe a victim mentality, a point of being wounded, and instead of being an asset in that relationship, you're going to be a liability. Instead of being the one to give, you really be the one sucking and draining the relationship, and all such relationships, business, amorous, religious, or otherwise, end up breaking. Sometimes there are nations that say they are working together in a confederation, or, many years ago, there were 2 nations and one was trying to, as it were, help the other one to be accepted in the United Nations as a country, and the other one was paying for that so-called help. But at the end of the day, it was not on equal footing, so somebody was draining from the other, and inevitably that relationship came to its logical conclusion. But we say when you and I come to the place of wholeness and stand in confidence, we are able to negotiate, relate, come together, and be complementing in these relationships. And obviously we brought it and escalated it to the point of marriage. And then we said that when we get to this point of marriage, it's interesting. I remember not too long ago, a married person was in our sitting room in our house and was sharing concerns. And you could see the person was really brokenhearted. And after some time of counseling and sharing, I now cracked a joke with the person and said, look, so the next time you see people who are in a hurry to marry and are ready to kill everybody, shoot everybody, make enemies with everybody, don't talk to everybody because they feel that 2 of them are going to fight the world in this marriage. Tell them to calm down, because there are transition times, there are challenging times that await them that they will have had no clue were in existence, because they had not walked this path of marriage before. But the great thing about it is that these challenges are not insurmountable. Challenges are insurmountable by choice. When either both parties agree to disagree, or sometimes one party just says, I'm not going to do it, I've had enough, or sometimes there's undue interference that clouds the original situation that just makes it impossible to be able to pick up the pieces to continue. And so there are a couple of obstacles and challenges we were looking at. And as we end this series after 10 episodes, I want to continue from where I left up last week as we talked about all the kinds of challenges. Because whenever we think about relational challenges, marriage challenges, union challenges, sometimes we limit them to 2, 3, or 4 former relationships, finances, that mother-in-law that's a witch, etc., which I talked about last week, which is never true. But sometimes there are issues of personality types. Sometimes it's the society in which you find yourself. It could be a society that everybody minds their business, so nobody comes into your space, as happens in the northern hemisphere. So you feel alone. You can't really exhale much because you don't know who your neighbors are on the left, and on the right it's just you by yourself. And sometimes it becomes even more difficult if there's a pigmentation color issue about it. Sometimes it is societies where they are always into your business. So your house always has people, you have no privacy, and sometimes you drift apart because there are other voices that are loud in your mind and in your marriage than your own voices. So you put a percentage on what your husband or your wife says to you, but you don't put a percentage on what the external outside people tell you. Obviously, more often than not true. Then there could be paradigm issues, worldview issues, local issues, global issues. These also have to do with personality, because there are people who are inward looking, sometimes very inward looking. There are people who have grown up in suspicious environments, either because of historical slavery or some kinds of generational issues in their ancestry that make them doubt everything. There are people that you compliment and they feel that maybe it's because she saw another man, that is why she's complimenting my shirt. Maybe it's because he saw another woman, that is why he's complimenting me. So it's never about them, it's always about somebody else. And that is a recipe for crisis. Sometimes it can be value systems and vision. There are people who are driven, there are people who have a vision to move forward, and there are some people who feel that as long as they're married, they've got a wife, they've got a husband, 2, 3, 4 children, let them rest. Sometimes it can be transitions, seasons in life, where if you're lucky, by pedigree, by some good fortune, maybe you got married and got into your own home that you have bought, so you don't have issues like that. But most people either move into a rented accommodation and they move on, and sometimes we make the wrong decisions. We bought the wrong car, we did something wrong, we just paid for that house and discovered that there was a better house, cheaper. And some transitions, the transitions of pregnancy, kids, educational pursuits, outside travel, these all come in the mix. And the way we handle them is key for us to surmount them and be able to tell ourselves we have a formula to beat it again. Why is this important? Because we must come into these situations and agreements with wholeness. If not, we blame each other. It was you who did it. I told you not to do it. Why did you do it? You should have listened to me. And the interesting thing is that that is not unique to you. It happens in business relationships. It happens in all kinds of relationships. As I said in segment 8, life and life's pursuits are not a straight line. There are turns and there are curves, there are mountains, there are valleys. We make mistakes, we learn, we repeat some classes, we take exams again. People dupe us. People who we trusted suddenly develop amnesia temporarily and they turn their backs against you, but you keep moving. And the thing is that for the two involved in this relationship, for them to have that understanding that come what may, we must triumph together. There is no win-lose. As I said last week, it's either a win-win or a lose-lose. Then there could be health issues, financial issues, the aging process, midlife crisis, menopause, all kinds of challenges that can shake the stability of an otherwise joyful union. And then there's so many X factors which can easily and rapidly change the trajectory of this relationship. And there are many more than I can even imagine. But what makes family A, couple A, institution A, business A go forward is because the institution and its constituent parts came together from the place of wholeness. I cannot help you if I am sick. A sick man cannot help a sick man. And sometimes, even when one of us has strength more than the other, there is what called in the medical care system a caregiver's syndrome or a caregiver sickness. That is where you are the one as the primary caregiver of this person, maybe your spouse, your child, this patient, and you are doing so much until you are literally yourself dropping. You are losing strength, you are losing mental focus, you are drained, and you just become like the other one because there is so much you can give without being replenished. And so there are many of these things. I remember there is a verse in the Bible where God spoke through an angel to Moses and his people, and the instruction was, make sure you are led by this angel and leave a gap, a distance of space between you and him so that you can follow. And then a beautiful sentence is made in the Bible. It goes like this: for you have never been this way before. You have never been this way before. And as I said, sharing with that married person that came into our home, it was like you could see the shock on their faces that I didn't expect this. I didn't see this coming. This is too early. We need help. And help and counsel was offered. And then I cracked the joke and I said to the person, the next time you see people super eager to marry, tell them, Deflen Danka, una take time, cool down, because it is not exactly what you think it is. There are minefields and bullets and giants and missiles and transitions and seasonal shifts that you have no clue will happen. And sometimes, even if you have had the privilege of being married before, and unfortunately a divorce, a death, or something happened, the next one is not necessarily going to be judged by the first one because it's a different person. But rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, we all know the truth that for every choice, there are going to be consequences. For every choice, there are going to be consequences. For every choice you and I make, there'll be consequences. And that is why we must look well. This business partner, this relationship, this contract that I'm signing, this deal, this ring that I'm putting on her finger and his finger, are we coming from that place of wholeness and completeness where we are open with each other and somebody's not coming in as a victim, blaming everybody else? That's why the last marriage did not work. That's why the last business failed. That's why the last confederation did not work together. That's why the last agreement failed, because of them, because of them, because of them, and never because of me. And so there are things you and I have to look at carefully. Let me make a few more points as I begin to round up. Last week I talked about even the challenges of forced marriages, child brides, or even self-made eunuchs, teenage underage pregnancies, sex slaves, FGM, and its attendant repressed emotional, sexual underrepresentation in marriage, you just wonder why the required pleasure is just not there, because somebody is broken but never told you they were broken. And we all smile, and the ladies will do their makeup, and the makeup really makes them up. But when you remove the makeup and get into the bathroom and wash your face and get into the bedroom, it's the real you. There is no doctor there. There is no reverend. There is no imam, imam. There is no bishop, professor, president, police. It's just the two of you. And when you get down into business, it's the two of you in the nakedness and the vulnerability of your lives. But yet, if from the place of wholeness, each of you is seeing how I can give and please more than I can get and drain. Talking about the issue of the bedroom, there are temporary impotence issues, sometimes issues of premature ejaculation, non-climaxing, the fear of it, issues of lack of trust, emotional instability, psychological instability, the effects of rape, incest, even marital rape, sexual violence in a marriage, violence in a relationship based on historical perspectives. You saw your father slap your mom so regularly that you felt the way you handle marriage is by slapping. And when we come into all these things, ladies and gentlemen, we really need to tell ourselves that we need help. It goes into cultural norms. It goes into demands, expectations, taboos. There's things about keeping it in the family to avoid exposure, societal shame, disgrace, possible ostracism. You are ostracized from the community. Sometimes there are suspicions that are founded. Sometimes there are unfounded suspicions and heartaches, alcoholic addictions, pornographic addictions, caste systems, albinism, multiple sets of twins in a marriage. So many challenging things. Of course, finance. Who will forget finance? What about the husband that hides money, the wife that hides money, and all these things? Let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, as I start landing. You cannot be a pariah, a pest, a leech, somebody sucking in the relationship and expect it to give and bring the best out of the both of you. No. Again, with the theme of this discussion, you must approach every relationship from a place of wholeness. But if in your mind is like hidden where when I deal with Andon, people have that. And so the import is things and not the person. And that's why counseling is key. I would say we must both be open to the possibility of being wrong. Always be open to the possibility of you being wrong and you not always being right. And also being humble enough to apologize, ask for forgiveness, receive it, recalibrate, and move on. And not use that against your partner, your husband, your wife, your business partner. The last deal we made, we lost 2 million. I don't trust it when you make deals. When will we ever learn? If there's always a stick hanging upon us. Sometimes, as we say in a marriage relationship, you're using the whip of the last husband to whip me. You're using the whip of the last wife to whip me. No. But the truth is that these transitions and challenges happen. But we must handle them with grace and with just that understanding that, I may be wrong. I may not have adjudged the situation as I think best. So in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits says, seek first to understand. Seek first to understand before you are understood. I've said this over and over. There's a theory, I believe it's in psychology, the theory called already listening. Already listening. Already listening. So something is going on, and maybe there is an arbiter, there is somebody trying to broker a deal, and husband is listening to what the wife is saying. He already has his answers. He's not really listening to her. He's just waiting for her to finish, and he's going to ba 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 ba. Wife is waiting, maybe tapping her feet, tapping her hand on her knee, just waiting for him to finish, not necessarily hearing what he's saying, neither his words nor the spirit and the intent and the heart that is crying for help behind what he's saying. She's ready to you said this, your mother said that, your brother said that, your sister said that, the last time your boss said that, and you know, we go on. Sometimes just take a step backward, breathe out, and just seek to understand. Be ready to forgive and be ready to receive forgiveness. That's how you do it. There is a servant in the Bible that the Lord Jesus Christ told an interesting parable about. He had owed a little amount of money, let's say $1,000, and was not able to pay according to when he said he was going to pay. So the master was going to throw him in jail, and he begged for mercy and said, "Give me time, I will pay." The master said, "Okay, I give you time." Then he left there and went to throttle another servant who owed him like 250 and said, "Pay me, pay me." Forgetting he had just been forgiven and given time to repay his 1,000, he threw that other servant who owed him 250 in jail. And the master heard of it and called him and said, "You wicked servant, look at what you did." Sometimes we're like that. You see, because none of us is without fault. None of us is without shortcoming. And this is why the Bible is so sweet. God has a verse where it says, if God should count sins, nobody will stand. If God should mark iniquity, nobody shall stand. That's why the way God absolved it was letting Jesus Christ, our Messiah, the Savior, Al-Masihu himself, just die for us all with his pure, sinless, spotless blood, and God's demands of holiness were by proxy put on Jesus Christ so that you and I can be free potentially and practically when we accept him into our lives as our personal Savior. Then it is ticked in heaven that not only is it potential, it is now a practical reality. Sometimes it's not just about perspectives. Sometimes it's temperance, temperament. Are you sanguine? Are you choleric? Are you phlegmatic? Etc. Sometimes it's just your past. But regardless, there must be no room for violence or for wrath. No room for physical violence. If it's getting out of your grasp, seek for help. So you must watch associations, confidantes, friends, the people who tell you the famous story about a man telling his friend in the VU, "You are the one taking it from your wife. You are taking this nonsense from your wife. When I beat her." And sometimes when you go to his house, he is very scared to even say yes to his wife. But he has sold a lie to you, either of which is wrong, because the wife is not a military general, neither is the husband a military general. You are two lovebirds that came together from wholeness, seeking to give, to please, and to bring out the best. So avoid the blame game. Avoid the victim mentality. Any relationship where there is a problem and we always point finger, it is him, it is her, it is because of them. I recently, not too long ago, was also trying to solve another issue with a couple. And to my shock, one of the parties said that I am totally innocent. I am right. The other party is wrong. And I was saying that that cannot be possible. In fact, the fact that you are saying that tells me that there is something lacking. And the other party was just quiet. And I was trying to say, even if he or she is 99% wrong, that 1% is yours. It makes the 100. 99 cannot make the 100. So when you're at a place where you are wrong, you are faultless, you are blameless, you're an angel from heaven, then there's a big issue. Because it's a sign of insecurity. You don't want to open your vulnerability and say, I am wrong. 3 words, please forgive me. I am sorry. I was or am wrong. 2 words, I apologize. 4 words, I take it back. 3 words again, please forgive me. In Creole, abeg. In Wolof, balalma. And it's all over. As we said last week, avoid blaming people, in-laws, especially our mother-in-laws, calling them witches. Avoid that. You'll get into incalculable problems. For starters, you don't have empirical fact on it. Since when did you become a discerner of who a witch is or a wizard is? Watch that. And any situation that goes like that has a problem, and you are visiting an external source as the cause of the problem rather than looking inward and saying that the problem is ours. Sometimes it's ex-relationships, what the Americans call a baby mama. You had a child with a young lady, or a baby father, or contraptions like that that bring in step parenting. How do we handle that? One rule of thumb is that no matter what's going on in a challenging atmosphere, this is the rule of thumb. Always defend in public, but correct in love in private. I repeat, defend boldly in public, but correct in love in private. Because you see, the outside people will relate to your husband or your wife the same way you do. If you say that foolish man, that stupid woman, or like a father is coming home and the mother is shouting, he's coming, hide the thing, Dangelenko. So the children and the mother are on one side and playing games against the father and the husband. What do you expect to happen? That in itself shows lack of wholeness. So 2 things I want to say as I end. Always defend boldly in public, and in the privacy and the quietness and the sanctity and the sacredness of a home, you can correct in love. Honey, the way you said that, the way you treated that man, I really don't think, didn't you notice how he kept quiet? His face changed and he walked away from you. How will we handle this? Well, I don't like him, yes, but how do we handle it? And another thing that is key is when these challenges come, please avoid very, very dangerous grounds like withholding sex or withholding lovemaking, withholding food, withholding money, withholding the car, and things that hit on the real core of the self-confidence and esteem of your partner, your husband, your wife, your business colleague. To be kind-hearted, to be kind-spirited will be an answer. What are 5 virtues? The virtues of sacrifice, patience, forgiveness, trust, and hope. A lot of people think it's only love, but when there is no trust, it's basically over. I take them again. Sacrifice, patience, forgiveness, hope, and trust. Believe in one another, help one another, pick up one another. And as I conclude, I say what I said last week. Should it emerge that the issue is overwhelming you, look for godly, wise, professional, confidential help and counsel, and implement what you are giving as a suggestion with a view to letting it work, even if you take baby steps and see little incremental development. Most of these things don't happen overnight. You cannot find somebody who has been cold turkeyed from any kind of addiction to just get it all right the next morning. Sometimes they will stumble, but with the determination to go forward, they will make it. And on those words, I want to end this series. As you can tell, I could have gone on and on and on, because each of these points, I'm sure you'll say, need a lot more. Maybe we'll revisit it in another form, but let's end it here. And until I come your way next week, by the grace of God, may God help us. may you and I open our hearts to the reality of the fact that we need to operate from wholeness. And if for any reason we are suffering with any kind of pain in our hearts and we feel we are broken, good, wise, professional, godly counseling will help you. And we are available to give that help if you choose to come our way. God bless us all and have a good day. Discovering truth.